My name's Artemis, and join me on a fantasy mermaid fairy weekend. Good morning. It is about 8:30 in the morning. I am mostly awake, but I am about to head off to do a mermaid tank photo shoot. So this weekend I've got a couple things going on. I've got a mermaid photo shoot, and then I also have a fairy tea party that I'm going to. So I figured I'd take y'all along, do a short little vlog about this fantasy weekend that I'm doing, and see how it goes. So I've got about a 2-hour car ride that I'm about to start on. It's a mermaid tank with the Appalachian Mermaid Society, and then tomorrow is the tea party. Let's go! Stand up! You're falling through the tank! I'll head out for meditation. The next day, I met up with my family and my mom's cat, Rascal. We were going to the tea time together. Rascal lives up to his name, and he loves to yell. Let's recap this weekend. I had a great time, but there's a couple things that I want to talk about. First off, the Appalachian Mermaid Society did actually cover my cost of the mermaid tank, so I paid for the photographer, but I did not pay for the tank rental time. I had done a tank time with them back in the spring. It was their first time traveling with the tank. I was the very first tank time of the weekend. Ultimately, things didn't work out super well, and they reached out to me after scheduling this tank time back in their home location, and they offered to cover the cost of the tank time. So I'm super grateful for that. For the tank time itself, both days that weekend, I think it ended up being over 100 degrees. And the tank time, was a giant pool of water inside a garage. And ultimately what happened is, I think it was the temperature and the humidity fried the photographer's equipment. They said they had to send off the camera body to actually get it repaired. The memory cards for the sessions were fried. So unfortunately, most of the photos that were taken during my tank time were either lost or heavily corrupted, which sucks for the photographer, of course. It sucks for everyone that was involved, and of course I am a little sad about it as well. I had kind of gone into this tank time with the mentality of this will be the last time that I'm taking out this tail, I have a black tail. It's iridescent under flash and bright light. And it was the second tail I've ever made, and I loved it, but it is too heavy to swim in, and it's kind of showing its age. It's got holes, so I was hoping to get some good, like, last hurrah photos from it. And ultimately, it didn't work out. Again, it absolutely sucks for the photographer, but he was super great. He was working with me. I think we got about 7 to 10 images recovered from the whole session, and he's been working hard to actually recover or edit them as much as possible. And so I have gotten some good images from that. It was also really exciting because I tried a blindfold for the first time just because. Super love how those images came out. So that is how the tank time went. So now on to the Fae Tea Party. A couple months ago, I had actually gotten a hoop skirt secondhand at the Renaissance Fair. Super cool, super fun. Please, if you know what type of hoop skirt or petticoat this is, let me know. I don't know anything about it. But I had gotten this hoop skirt, and ultimately none of the skirts that I have in my collection were big enough to cover it. So my plan was to make a circle skirt and wear it for this weekend. The original design was going to be just making a circle skirt, making some easy sleeves and some accessories, and just throwing a bodice on top and not having to worry about it. I had ended up getting a queen bed sheet that was a really pretty green color, and it was 100% viscose, so it was a breathable material, and I was excited to use that. But when I brought it home, a couple things started going wrong. First, I did not realize that viscose would shrink in heat. So I lost that whole day that I had planned to sew the skirt to just trying to get it to air dry. Secondly, when I brought it home, I guess the lighting was very different, and it looked gray. I was going to pair this with a green corset. I had a green floral overskirt to kind of go for this green fairy nature motif, but just the colors were clashing and not what I had envisioned at all. I kept charging through, so it was like 2 days before I had to leave, and I could finally start on the circle skirt. I had made a mock-up out of 2 full flat sheets, and I had plenty of fabric to make the full circle skirt and the sleeves. However, when I started cutting into the queen bed sheet, I very quickly realized I did not have enough fabric. Ultimately, I had thought that a queen set would be bigger than a full, which apparently is not necessarily true. And I also thought a fitted sheet, once you cut it open, would be larger than a flat sheet, which is also apparently not true. So then I ended up spending hours trying to do the math to figure out where I could cut on the fitted sheet to get as much fabric as possible. So I ended up spending a lot of time working on just figuring out how to make this skirt. Even once I was able to get the measurements and get everything cut, I still managed to cut things wrong, so I had to go in and add actual panels because it wasn't matching up. And at this point, I was just feeling so frustrated with the project and so burnt out. There were things that I wanted to do with friends leading up to this event that I just couldn't do because I didn't have the time. And I was just, again, really frustrated with the project and with myself for kind of letting it get this far. And then we got the news that because of the excessive heat, the event was going to be moved inside. I think they estimated about 50 people were going to be there, and it is a small space. So wings and petticoats were not recommended for this event. So I didn't have to finish the circle skirt, and it is still lying unhemmed in my pile of things to do. So I ended up just throwing together a very casual, very breathable outfit. I was not very happy with how it came out, but the morning of the event, I actually had brought my sewing machine with me that weekend, and I sewed some sleeves that I had drafted up for the first costume, but this time in black to match the bodice I had and to make my costume a little more whimsical. Basically, it is just a rectangle. I cut the corners off the bottom, and I added 2 strips of elastic and made some removable Renaissance-looking sleeves. So it was a very chaotic weekend, but ultimately I had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, thank you so much for watching. I hope you stick around and subscribe to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Spooky! No, it's not toy time.